Hello guys, I am Kaluchi, a diamond player who mains AD carry and also Ezreal. Ezreal is by far my most played champion ever since season 1, so I think I know the basics of this champion, and also some nice tips and tricks and all that good stuff. This will be my very first in-depth guide, so the video might be very long, but once again I'll try my best to explain literally everything there is to know about this champion. If you want to skip to a topic, look in the description below for the timestamps. Let's get started. Ezreal is a burst AD carry, who excels at dealing damage with both skills and auto attacks. Therefore, it's of utmost importance to know what his skills do and how to use it effectively. Ezreal is not your typical hyper carry like Ashe, Kate or Vayne, who deal 1k crits late game. Instead, Ezreal deals a good amount of burst damage either in a long period of time or very short. It all depends on how you set this up and for whom. The difference between burst and hypercarry is basically that burst damage comes from your skills. This way you can activate all of your skills at the same time to do a lot of damage in a short window. Hypercarry is more of the basic auto attack champions who work with critical strikes and attack speed. Both have its pros and cons and both counter each other at certain moments. For example, burst is very good against quizzy champions and early to mid game, while hypercarries are perfect for the late game to shred tanks. Moving on to the second part, I will talk about how good Ezreal fits in the current meta. This will be patch 7.5. In my opinion, Ezreal belongs in the top 3. For me personally, he's number 1, but if you look at the general state of the game, I'd place him at number 2, right behind Lucian. The reason why Ezreal is so strong at this moment is because the meta being early / mid game. Games tend to end faster and faster, and for that reason you don't have time or money to build your expensive critical strike build. Instead, you go for a much cheaper path that deals a lot more damage early on, which scales very good with Ezreal. Let's move to his strengths and weaknesses. The first thing that you will notice while playing Ezreal is that he is very mobile. Thanks to his E, he has a flash that you can use every 10 to 15 seconds. This makes him practically untouchable for the junglers early game, also for hard initiators in the laning phase. People have to think twice before they go in on you, and because of that you have a great advantage as an AD carry. Ezreal also has a lot of burst damage. People often don't realize this, but if Ezreal starts off with his ultimate and follows up with his E-Q combo, almost all squishy champions go down from 100 to 30-40% HP. And even after that, he has a strong basic attacks and low cooldowns. Ezreal is also one of the greatest kiters in game. Even though he has no crowd control, he has very low cooldowns and a good amount of range to stay out of any dangers. And once again, he has his E to reposition if needed. If you go for the Iceborne Gauntlet build, he will become even more of a beast in kiting. Ezreal is also a poke king. Before the teamfight starts, try to poke your enemies with your Q. Trust me, it hurts a lot if you manage to hit a few in a row. Moving on to his weaknesses. Ezreal is very item reliant and can't do much if he gets behind, but if he does get his steer stacked before 20 minutes, he will become a beast. Try to be as efficient as possible, and for this reason recall when you don't need to stay in lane. Get your items and get back to lane. People will often cancel your recall before your first back, so they delay your Tear of the Goddess purchase. Try to really go back at 800 gold, and if that's not possible, go ASAP. Why 800 gold, you may ask? Because now you can buy a healed potion and the Tear of the Goddess. Of course, if you need wards as well, stick till 875 gold. Ezreal can fall off late game in comparison to other AD carries. Does this mean he is weak? No, not at all. It just means that other AD carries will catch up and even surpass him if the game goes beyond 30 to 35 minutes. Usually, these are the hyper carries that I talked about in the beginning of the video. Also, Ezreal needs space to deal damage. What I mean with this is the following. Ezreal's main damage comes from his Q, but your Q hits the first target it encounters. So if you try to deal damage to an enemy that stands behind a minion, ally or jungle creep, you will not be able to deal the damage you want. This can also be annoying in the laning phase especially. That's why you shouldn't trade when there are a lot of minions around. Position is key. Playing Ezreal may seem easy, but don't underestimate him. Since all of his skills are skill shots, there is some skill required to really benefit from this champion. Therefore, he might be harder to master than most other AD carries. Since we're talking about him being a skill shot based champion, let's move over to his skills. Very smooth transition, Kaluchi. Okay, so his passive, Rising Spell Force, will increase your attack speed for 6 seconds every time you hit one of your skills. This passive stacks up to 5 times. This means that he gains 10% attack speed per ability that successfully hits. Do this 5 times and you have 50% attack speed. At level 7, the passive will be 12% per stack, and at level 13 it will be 14 per stack. Later on, I will tell you some tricks how to stack this up fast. His Q Mystic Shot is very simple. Fire a bolt of mystical energy that hit the first target it encounters. Your Q also reduces all of your cooldowns for 1.5 seconds if hit successfully. This means the more you fire this, the less cooldown your skills have. Oh, and of course you must be able to aim and hit something, otherwise they don't count. That's not all. Your Q applies on hit effects. This means that if you have special buffs, your Q benefits from it as well. I'll give some examples. Blade of the Ruined King's passive, Sheen proc, Red buff, Black Cleaver passive, Critical Strike, Rapid Fire Cannon, and Static Shift as well. There are more, but you get the point. Because his Q applies on hit effects, it makes his Q the perfect harassing ability. Let's say a Q deals 400 damage of itself and you have Red buff. This will deal X additional amount of damage on top of that. Oh, and of course you get your Sheen and Blade of the Ruined King as well. This will make your Q go from 400 to 600 to 700 damage. Moving on to his W, Essence Flux. This skill doesn't really provide a lot, but pick it at level 4 nonetheless. I will explain in a bit why. So this W is a skill shot that moves through minions and jungle creeps. It can only affect allied or enemy champions. Allied champions gain an attack speed buff and your enemies will receive damage. This skill can hit multiple enemies or allies. You can also cast Essence Flux on yourself by casting it and then following it up by arcane shifting into it. This will provide a nice attack speed buff. His E, Arcane Shift, is why I love this champion so much. It's basically your summoner spell Flash, but then on lower cooldown, and it deals damage. How great can a skill be? Max this skill second after your Q. This skill makes you invisible if used right. It has a 90-second cooldown at level 1, so don't use it for fun, only use it when needed. Oh, remember that if you hit your Q, your cooldown will be lowered to 1.5 seconds, therefore don't miss your Qs. True Shot Barrage is Ezreal's most fun skill to use. It's an across the map ultimate that can go from your place to wherever you want it to go, dealing damage to all enemies hit. But, there is a but incoming, it deals 10% less damage for each additional unit it hits, 30% minimum damage. It takes Ezreal a short time to fire his ultimate, 0.5 seconds is my lucky guess, so make sure they won't see it coming. Okay, let's talk about runes. So Ezreal needs a mixed rune page with attack speed and attack damage. This stacks well with his passive and obviously for base damage as well. For defensive runes there are so many options. I like to keep it simple, therefore I pick flat armor and magic resist. You can get cooldown reduction on glyphs as well, or attack speed, but I wouldn't really recommend that anymore. For seals you can go for health as well. Again, I wouldn't recommend this, flat is best in most cases. If you, however, have 1000 rune pages, feel free to make every single one different for each game and matchup. Moving to his masteries. There are multiple ways you can make a mastery page for Ezreal. I personally only use one no matter what my team has or the enemy. The second page is a page you should pick if you're not that comfortable with Ezreal yet. It gives a lot of sustain, making you less punishable for mistakes. In this first page I made it so that I can deal as much damage as possible with the least sustain as possible. You're an AD carry in the end and need to be able to deal damage. There are small things you can change, but get further 100% of the time if you want to go for damage mastery. The second page is meant, like I said, if you want more sustain and don't want to get punished as hard. I use this as a test, but I like the first one more since the damage makes quite the difference. You can get Warlord Bloodlust instead of Fervor as well if you want to go for that sustain build. Let's move over to the item builds. There are two main core builds I use and recommend, and within those two builds there are some minor changes you can do. I will let you guys know what those changes are, and based on your game you can adapt to it. Let's start with the highest damage output build first. This build is meant to deal a lot of burst damage, and every item has either an active or a passive that boosts its Q damage. Start off with your Doran's Blade and Healed Potion. Go back at 800 gold and buy your Tear of the Goddess, and while heal potion. Next is your Muramana. The reason why you want to rush this item before Trinity Force is because once you buy this item, stacking of the Tear of the Goddess gets a lot easier. After Muramana, get your boots. Based on the game, you pick your boots. So with a lot of AD, get Ninja Tabby. With a lot of AP, get Mercury. If the game goes well and you're pretty safe, get Ionian Boots of Lucidity. After your boots, you want to pick your Triforce. Next is Blade of the Ruined King. So these 3 items are your core items that you must buy 100% of the time. After you've done that, you can build based on the game. For example, get more of the Mormortius if they have a lot of AP. Get Styrax Gauge if they have a lot of burst. If they have a lot of assassins, get Guardian's Angel. For your next item, you want some armor penetration. Get Last Whisper. If they have a lot of HP, get Lord's Dominix. If they got a lot of regen and heals, get Mortal Reminder. For your second build, you only want to change the Trinity Force into Iceborne Gauntlet. Iceborne Gauntlet will help you kite a lot easier thanks to its slow. Pick this item if the enemy has a lot of attack damage or when they have a lot of melee champions that you want to kite. Champions like Nasus, Pantheon or Illaoi have a hard time catching up when they are slowed by your Iceborne Gauntlet. Before we move on to the next part, I'd like to give you guys a tip on how to stack your Tear faster. So Tear works on stacks, and every time you use a skill it gains 4 mana. Therefore try to always use a skill at all times. When you walk away from your base to lane, spam your Q and W. When you are in lane, spam it even if it doesn't hit an enemy. Once you get Mana Mune, your basic attacks will also count as a stack. Then it will go easier automatically. It's very important that you don't forget to do this, because the sooner you have it fully stacked, the sooner you will be stronger and have your spike. I will explain some matchups for Ezreal and what to keep in mind when you're in them. The first matchup will be against Caitlyn. Since Kate is a bully, has more range and more push power, she will probably be one of the hardest matchups for you. Ask your support to push with you as hard as possible against her so she doesn't have time to poke you. If you do lose and she zones you, just farm with your Q. Your Q has more than enough range to keep farming in a lane when zoned. Second champion will be Lucian. While Ezreal should counter Lucian, experience show me that Lucian is just as good of a counter. Ezreal deals more burst than Lucian, but Lucian can follow up better. When picking a fight with Lucian, be sure to hit your ult beforehand and don't miss your Qs in the fight. Next up is Ashe. Ashe should be a win for you since she has to hit her big ultimate, which is easily dodgeable with your E. In the laning phase, you just want to poke her a few times with your Q before going in for the kill. Last one I will be talking about is Vayne. Vayne is in my opinion the biggest counter to Ezreal, just because she can dodge all of your skills. Same goes for Kalista. Play passive against her and let your team initiate, lock her up and then follow up. Let's get to the fun part, aka the tips and tricks. The first thing I want you to do is to go to your settings and change all of your skills to Smartcast. This will really help you doing your combos faster and smoother. Tip 2. You can spot enemies and brushes by throwing your skills before entering, and you will either hear a sound or see your skill disappear when you hit an enemy. You can also see your passive stacking up, so you don't have to face check. Tip 3. To double flash, no one will see this coming, and even if they do, they can't catch up. Use your E first, then flash and press Q. You will make so much distance with this, it's insane. It needs some getting used to, so practice this a few times before using it. Tip number 4. This trick will make you do the most amount of burst in the shortest time. Fire your ultimate beforehand, then double your E and follow it up with your Q. This combo can deal up to 2k damage. Imagine all the Swiss champions crying, right? Tip number 5. My next tip will be a simple one. Use your ultimate to depush pushing lanes. Your cooldown is low on your ultimate, so don't feel bad to do this. Tip number 6. My last 2 tips are to use your ultimate in team fights to hit as many people as possible. Don't save it just to snipe some low HPs. Oh, and also, your ultimate can't be cancelled. It's a channel, not a cast. That was it for the tips and tricks. Let's move over to the gameplay. In this footage you will see us rushing level 2 before the enemies and then immediately engaging on them. Because we have a level advantage, we come on top of the trade and manage to kill Vayne. We run away after this since Karma can kill us. Fortunately for us, she doesn't have the damage and follows us into hell. Here you see why I said you should use your ultimate from a place they can't see it charging. Because of this, Thresh didn't see it coming and it was too late to dodge and it died. This is a 1v2 situation. Because I poked them beforehand a few times with my Q, they have become low on HP. Karma then for some reason thought it was smart to initiate on me while I have a big wave. I managed to kill her before Vayne could join the fight. After that I went on Vayne and killed her as well. Here is some footage on why Ezreal is so mobile and safe. Even though I made a very big mistake and took a lot of damage, I managed to get out of here thanks to my flash and arcane shift. Even after I got out, Kha'Zix went ham on me and I used my arcane shift again. I made so many mistakes here and yet I got 2 kills out of it and 2 assists as well. The next 2 clips will show you why Ezreal's burst is one to be reckoned with. I see Thresh out of position and I know I got the damage to blow him up, so that is what I do. I use all of my skills and even flash for the kill. The same thing happened when I'm against Vayne, who didn't think that I could kill her. I unleash my mystical powers and slay her fast. After that I bait Kassadin to change me and pop my heal to survive, while he gets picked off by my fizz. Because I didn't like the fact that he disrespected me early on, I decided to face him in a 1v1 and wrecked him. Don't forget to BM. That was it for my guide. Thank you very much if you watched it until here. Good luck and have fun playing him. If you got any questions, let me know in the comment section below. This video took me a very long while to make, so I'd appreciate a like, a comment or a subscribe. Have a nice day and until next time.